Francesca Albanese. She is the UN Special Rapporteur of the occupied Palestinian territories. She's also anti-Semitic. Oh, how can you say that? You're just trying to stifle debate on Israel-Palestine. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to stifle any debate. I'm happy to discuss anything you want to. Have it all out in the open. And when things are all out in the open, it is clear that she sees Israel as this demonic force. She mislabels Israel's protection of her people as genocide, as evil. Her double standards, her unique, seeing Israel as uniquely evil, she's completely blind to. She was asked in an interview about a month ago, why is it the United Nations has more resolutions against Israel than any other country? Think how many corrupt, evil countries there are. North Korea. Think about what happens in China. Think about what happens in Iran. Some of these African countries, the corruption, the slaughters of civilians, the real ethnic cleansing. And she said, why is Israel focused on so much? More than all other countries combined? She said, well, because things never change with Israel. Brilliant. Do you understand how blind she is to this? But she got a puff piece kind of... I don't know what the word is. They gave her basically a decision to give her real credibility and authority by interviewing her on The Rest is Politics. Now, The Rest is Politics is a podcast run by Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell. They're both very involved in UK politics. They kind of are meant to be like, we come from the left wing and the right wing approaches, even though, frankly, it's a bit ridiculous that they frame it like that because they're both very much in the centre and agree on a huge amount politically, and there's not really that much that separates them. So it's a bit of a false dichotomy, a false distinction that's being made overall. I'm not saying entirely, but overall. But they get on Francesca Albanese, and to be clear, in the interview, Alistair Campbell expresses his admiration for her. He states quite plainly that he chose not to ask any questions about her anti-Semitism, doesn't pick up on it at all, and know that the interview talks about all kinds of things. It's very respectful and treats her as an authority. They talk about her past, her UN position. They talk about her analysis of Italy's political situation, and then they go on to talk about what's happening in Israel. And then there's a clip where Rory Stewart wonders why Francesca Albanese shows no sympathy with Jews and doesn't seem to show hostility to Hamas.
Even nothing. I was very impressed by.
Well, there's also a clip where Alistair Campbell at the end notes his admiration for her, and Rory Stewart kind of talks about, he just has these questions about someone who he says she says, when asked, do you have any Israeli friends? She said very few. She didn't bother talking about, they acknowledge in the interview, Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell acknowledge in the interview that she doesn't try to talk first about how October 7th was so terrible and obviously Israel has a right to defend itself and all that kind of stuff. She just goes straight into the attack, and they come up with these naive, in my view, justifications for that, saying she doesn't feel she needs to qualify all these things anymore. Well, I'm afraid to say that the reason is not because of some, strategic point on her part. It's because she genuinely loathes Israel, the Jewish state. And I want to just go through with you some examples of her anti-Semitism because, as I said, I will qualify what she said. Okay, and qualify my remarks about her. Let's go through some examples. On October 14th, 2024, Albanese likened the systematic extermination of Jews under the Nazis' pure race policy to Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza. Hamas, who are modern-day Nazis. Albanese compares the Jewish state's war against Hamas to the Third Reich, who perpetrated the Holocaust, tweeting, quote, our collective obliviousness to what led 100 years ago to the Third Reich's expansionism and the genocide of people not in conformity with the pure race is asinine, and it is leading to the commission of yet another genocide. In August 2024, in a tweet addressed to the German government, Albanese likened Germany's actions and German civilians' complacency during the Holocaust under the Third Reich to Germany's support of Israel, claiming, "This is 2024, and while you could stay quiet and silent in the corner of history, you are doing all you can to make it wrong once again." In August 2024, Albanese likened Israel's war on the Gaza Strip to the Holocaust, calling it a concentration camp of the 21st century. In July 2024, Albanese trivialized the Holocaust, reposting an image comparing Netanyahu to Adolf Hitler with the comment, "This is precisely what I was thinking today." In December 2023, Albanese compared Israel's war in Gaza to the Holocaust, saying, "Fellow Europeans, Italians, Germans, after the Holocaust, we should instinctively know that genocide starts with dehumanizing the other." Well, if she's concerned about that, perhaps she could look to the people of Gaza, who dehumanize Jews and have done, and that's what led to the Hamas terror attack, where you'd have Hamas terrorists calling up their parents moments after they've killed a group of Jews, saying, "Mum, Dad, I've killed Jews, Allahu Akbar." She said genocide starts with the dehumanizing of the other. You bet it does. Those people that were attacked on October 7th wanted to see the Gazans, see the other, and take them in. And they arranged hospital visits for them and employed them and worked with them, sometimes for decades. They were peaceniks, desperate for a two-state solution. You think they are guilty of dehumanizing the other? She said, "If Israel's current attack against Palestinians doesn't prompt our strong reaction, the darkest page of our recent history has taught us nothing." So the Jews face a genocidal attack against Hamas. They try to destroy Hamas with more military precision than has ever been shown in the history of modern urban warfare, and you say Israel is the Nazi. Israel should just sit back and get itself slaughtered. Does she hear what she's saying? She also has conspiracies about Jewish power. On October 2024, she retweeted with the caption, "A must-read for the ages," a tweet from Chris Hedges that read, "I fear, given that the Israel lobby has bought and paid for Congress and the two ruling parties, as well as cowed the media and universities, the rivers of blood will continue to swell. There is money to be made in war, a lot of it, and the influence of the war industry, buttressed by hundreds of millions of dollars spent on political campaigns by the Zionists, will be a formidable barrier to peace, not to mention sanity." Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ironic given that people who have made the most out of the Israeli-Arab conflict have been the Palestinian leaders. Arafat became one of the most wealthy men in the world, and his wife is, and children are. You have the Hamas leaders who, until they were eliminated, racked up billions of dollars in personal net worths because they would gain money from all this aid, and rather than give it to their people, they would keep it for themselves. And I've never understood this argument, the Israel lobby. Well, that's how political lobbying works. If you have a system in which there is lobbying, there's all kinds of lobbies with massive amounts of money of them. Why shouldn't Israel also? And people who are sympathetic to Israel's cause be involved in lobbying, especially when there's so much hostility to Israel. Now, what about demonization and delegitimization of Israel? In 2024, August, Albanese labeled the targeted Israeli assassinations of terrorist leaders Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh and Hezbollah commander Fouad Shukr as murders and acts of aggression. It's just unbelievable. You couldn't make this up. Killing Haniyeh is murder. Okay. In July 2024, Albanese compared Israel to the terrorist rule of the Taliban in Afghanistan. After the Taliban banned the UN Special Rapporteur for Afghanistan from entering the country, stating, "The Taliban displays the same disdain towards the UN and its values as Israel's apartheid." In Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, women are barred from speaking or showing their faces in public. In June 2024, Albanese claimed genocidal intent in the Israeli rescue efforts to free 4 hostages kidnapped from Israel into Gaza by Hamas terrorists. In July 2024, she tweeted, "Time to unseat Israel from the UN." So Israel is this unique evil in the world where it does only wrong. And anytime she tries to protect herself, like killing the head of Hamas, Haniyeh, it's murder. Are you getting it yet? When you see the Jewish state as a unique evil, the one state in this world needs to be unseated from the UN. She doesn't call that for any other country. Either she's got a point, which flies in the face of logic, or she's engaging in something which has been with us since the dawn of time. Jew hatred. Which, by the way, is the ultimate example of dismissing and prejudicing the other. The Jews are always the other in every generation. And part of why God chooses the Jews is because the whole work of bringing God into your life is to make space for the ultimate other, God himself, and bring him into our world. That's certainly the Jewish view from a biblical perspective. So if you can't make space for the other, the Jews in history, that's also your inability to make space for God. And so it's ironic how she's showing this. You want to tell me that you only care for one country to be eliminated from the UN, for its existence to be dissolved, and it just happens to be the Jewish one. I mean, it's nothing to do with a persecution which has existed since Israel and the Jewish people's inception. But we're not done. Oh, there's more. In March 2024, Albanese diminished the reality and suffering of Israeli women on International Women's Day without reference to those who were murdered, dehumanized, kidnapped, and raped by Hamas. She said, "My thoughts also go to the Israeli women, especially the soldiers. What have you done? What have you become? Dears, when you realize it, you'll be haunted forever." I mean, I just don't understand. Day after day, there's literally Nazi-esque memorabilia and items inside of Hamas-run Gaza. She has nothing to say about that. Does she have anything to say about Hamas parading the bodies, the coffins of the Bibas family and others on those stages? In February 2024, in response to French President Emmanuel Macron referring to the October 7th massacre as the largest anti-Semitic massacre of our century, she tweeted, "The greatest anti-Semitic massacre of our century? No, Macron. The victims of October 7th were not killed because of their Judaism, but in response to Israel's oppression." For this statement, the governments of France and Germany condemned Albanese for her anti-Semitism, making it the first time in UN history that both France and Germany condemn a UN rapporteur for anti-Semitism. It is a disgrace, what she said. Saying that, no, it's just resistance. They're just resisting. Let me tell you something, Albanese. If my ancestors, my grandparents' generation, when they escaped the horrors of the concentration camps of Europe, and if they would have gone around to German towns and started raping German women, killing German children, mutilating them, kidnapping them, I assure you, the Jewish community would not turn around and say, it's just resistance. And that was when there genuinely was a genocide. That's point number one. Point number two is, how dare you call it resistance? Israel leaves Gaza in 2005. They elect Hamas. They build tunnels, terror networks. It could have been a great success where they've cooperated with Israel, lived side by side, have a flourishing economy. They got so much international economic investment and goodwill. But they chose death and destruction, and now that's our fault? The whole cause is phony. It's not based on resistance. It's about trying to get rid of Israel. It's always been that way, before Israel even existed. And it's not because they consider themselves a unique national identity that deserves statehood. If all the Jews converted to Islam overnight, there'd be no problem. God forbid for that to happen. But that shows that it's not about a national cause. It's about religious extremism. France responded to her comments saying the October 7th massacre is the largest anti-Semitic massacre of the 21st century. To deny it is wrong. To seem to justify by bringing in the name of the UN is a shame. Adding that, they said these remarks are all the more scandalous given that the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of racism are at the heart of the founding of the UN. Germany replied to Albanese's comments, stating to justify the horrific terror attacks of October 7th and deny their anti-Semitic nature is appalling. Making such statements in a UN capacity is a disgrace and goes against everything the UN stands for. It's so ridiculous that they call it resistance, as if what Hamas wants stops at the borders of Israel. They're looking for Islamist domination. They're looking to kill Jews worldwide. It's a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace. The truth is, there's more. Let me just go through them quickly with you, because there is more stuff that just should build this case in case you had any doubt in your mind whatsoever. During a webinar, while discussing the October 7th massacre, Albanese said there might have been people carrying out the attack who might have been motivated by hatred. But the attack itself, and this is the thing, there is something like intent at the level of the attack. And all the statements that were collected at the level of command have not pointed to aggression against the Jews. There is another point that in Arabic, Palestinians refer to Israelis as Yehudis, and the Israelis refer to the Palestinians like the Arabs. This is something that shouldn't escape a Western audience. It is a way to refer interchangeably to the Israelis. Oh dear, 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 dear. She needs to study Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the first real Arab leader of the Palestinians of that region. He was appointed before there was a state of Israel. And he led the charge to bring the Nazi final solution to the Arab world, worked and collaborated with the Nazis, visited concentration camps. Yeah, I'm sure he just wanted the Israelis gone, not the Jews. There were no Israelis then. There was no Israel. In October 2023, following the brutal massacre perpetrated by Hamas, Albanese called into question Hamas's crimes, including beheadings and rape. Even though there's video footage of this, there's first-hand testimony of this. On October 7, 2023, the day that Hamas targeted Israel's civilian populations, massacring over 1,200 people and kidnapping 250, her reaction was to minimize Hamas atrocities, stating that today's violence must be put in context, our favourite word. In a November 2022 response to a Hamas-organised conference in Gaza, she said, "You have the right to resist this occupation." In June 2022, she stated that the Palestinians have no other room for dissent than violence, justifying violence against Israel. This is the UN Special Rapporteur. It's just unbelievable. At the start of her position there, in May 2022, she began to justify terrorist violence, stating, "The Palestinian violence that we see is inevitable, because for 55 years, almost 3 generations, the right to exist of a people has been denied." Let's be clear, everything that she'll lament, displacement, security checkpoints, blockades, war, everything she laments are self-inflicted by the Palestinians who choose genocide against the Jews. None of these things that she laments would have happened had they chosen peace with Israel, had they chosen to accept the Jewish people's right to be in the land. So when she says it's inevitable because their right to exist has been denied, no, they've tried to destroy the Jewish people's right to exist. And then when the Jews win, they then claim victim and claim, look what the Jews did to us. This is a great map I saw that explained it. I hate these damn Jews. Let's slaughter Jews. Jews defend themselves. I'm the victim of Nakba or genocide. That's how it works. It's really that simple. This is screenshot this, everyone. Screenshot this picture. This explains the whole Palestinian cause in a nutshell. Lastly, in 2014, so this is prior to her appointment at the UN, in a post since hidden from her Facebook page, Albanese employs anti-Semitic tropes in an open letter to the BBC, stating that, quote, "The Israeli lobby is clearly inside your veins and system, claiming of an Orwellian nightmare caused once again by Israel's greed." In 2014, she expressed excitement on Facebook that Hamas was removed from the list of terror organisations by the EU General Court. "Two good news, one after another from the radio while I was taking a nap. Normalisation in the relations USA, Cuba, and removal of Hamas from the list of terror organisations. Was I dreaming? The EU's decision to declassify Hamas as a terrorist organisation was overturned by the European Court of Justice in 2017. And in 2014, she stated, America and Europe, one of them subjugated by the Jewish lobby and the other by the sense of guilt about the Holocaust. When uncovered in 2022, her comments were condemned by US Special Envoy to Combat Anti-Semitism, Deborah Lipstadt, as blatantly anti-Semitic. And she has since said that she regrets this remark. So this woman has, in her veins and in a very long history, a deep track record of Jew hatred, anti-Jewish racism. So what I object to very strongly is this seemingly very respectful, credibility-providing interview that The Rest is Politics gave to Francesca Albanese. And in my mind, it destroys their own credibility. So please share this video widely and let the truth ring out clear.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.